Hello, this is Dr. Grafton, and this is videos part two of assignment 3.4, chapter 8, confidence interval estimation. In the first video, we talked about the first part of the assignment where we were doing confidence intervals for a population mean. In this video, we're going to do part two of the assignment where we're doing a confidence interval for a proportion. But we're going to be using the same spreadsheet that we had earlier. Uh, you can see uh, where we had the data. We're using the same data. You should already have the confidence interval mean, confidence interval by size with our box plots on there. So this tab now we're going to be doing the CI proportion. Okay. So the first one it wants to know about is the sample size. So we're going to do the sample size. Then we're going to look at the number of paid within 15 days. And then from that, we're going to calculate the sample proportion, the standard error proportion, the multiple, and the upper and lower limits for our confidence interval. So again, we're at the 95% confidence levels reflected here. So our sample size then is basically the count um, function. We're going to go back to the data file, data tab, and that should give us 91. Okay, so now we want to know how many uh, paid within 15 days. And again, we're going to go back to the data tab again. We're going to use the count if function. So equal count if. I want to know the range and the criteria. So the range again is from the data tab. Um, C2 through C92. Now we need to know the criteria. So we're going to put that in quotes. We want it to be less than or equal to 15, in quotes, and then the close paren. Okay, so there's 27 in that size. The sample proportion then is basically B5 divided by B4. That gives us the proportion. Proportions are going to be a decimal. Basically, proportion means percent. So that could be, 29.7% if you're wanting to state it that way. I just leave it at decimal. I went ahead and formatted these cells so it'll give us 3 decimal places. So you might want to do that for yours as well. Uh, the standard error of the proportion then is a square root. URT, paren B6 times 1 minus B6 divided by B4. Okay, close paren. All right. So then we're going to use for our multiple is we're going to use the norm function. That we're going to use the norm sample inverse function. And basically what we're using that for is to find the probability of that's a specific value that we're looking for occurs less than or equal to a given value. So once we have that number, then we're going to subtract and add to it to find what our lower and upper limit is. Okay. So this formula is equal norm dot S for sample dot inverse NV open paren, and now it's wanting to know the probability. So we're going to do you can see it highlights the confidence level up there. Uh, Add to that 1 minus close paren divided by 2 close paren. Okay, that gives us 1.960. So our upper and lower limits in, we're just going to do subtracting the sample proportion from B8, B7. Okay. Gives us our lower limit. Then our upper limit, then we're going to add B6 plus, oops, plus B8 times B7. Okay. So that gives us our upper and lower limits of our proportions. So we know somewhere in there is going to be the population proportion. Uh, as we saw up there, we can see the sample proportion is within that range as well. Okay. The next screen, then, we're going to answer the second part of that question. Was it's wanting to let's look at the question again. It says calculate a 95% confidence interval of the difference between the proportion of large customers who paid within 15 days and the similar proportion of medium-sized customers. Okay, and then the difference between the medium-sized who paid was similar to small customers. All right, then we can comment on the findings. So what I did on this tab is I already created the two columns for you. So the large to medium and the medium to small. Um, as we did earlier on the confidence interval mean by size, we're going to enter formulas using the $sign, which means the absolute reference, and then we'll be able to copy that over into the next column there. Okay. So the first one then is a count if function. I'll get my notes here. Equal count if. Going back to the data tab. So we're going to do the absolute reference here. So when we copy it over, it won't change. That's why you're using these. Okay, so that's our range. I noticed an error there. I misspelled. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and finish it up here in the formula bar. So that's our range. Now we need to look for our criteria. So we're going to do a single quote CI portion, which is the name of this tab. And it's important that you spell it right or it'll give you an error. I've done that a couple times already. So now it's looking for, it's going through that range and it's looking for the word large. So it'll return the value of how many are in that. So there's 20 in that. Okay. Now we're going to do that function again, only we're going to change the criteria. So equal count if data that's our range. Now we're looking for the criteria. So the single quote CI and B5. Okay. Now it's going to go back to that and come back and return the value of how many of those. So there's 39 of those. Okay. So this next, we want a number one paid within 15 days and number two paid within 15 days. This is a sample number one, sample number two. So we need to put in there what that criteria is that we're looking for. So we're going to do a count if S function, and that allows us to put a couple more criterias in there. So start with the equal count if S, paren data tab again. So that's our range. We're looking at the CI portion. If single quote exclamation before. Now we're going to go in and look for the less than or equal to 15 days. So again, going back to our data tab. This time we're going to be looking at a different column. It'll be the days. Oops, here we go. And it's the same range, it's just a different column that we're looking at. Then we're looking for less than, let's see, less than or equal to 15, end quote, close parentheses. Okay. So, oops, too soon. Okay, so looking for the error I made there. Let's see if it'll help us here. Okay, I left out a T in count. See what it's showing me where my error was at. So I can go up there. So it's supposed to be count if. There we go. Count if S. All right, now it returned 8. It's sometimes good so you can see my error. So in case you get a similar error, um, you know how to correct it. Okay. So again, count if S. The going back to the data tab. Columns here. Okay, that's our range. We're going for our criteria. Single quote, CI portion. Make sure you spell it right or it'll come back with an error. We're going to look at B5. Okay, so now we're looking at category 2 here, medium. All right. So now we're going to give it another range so we can look for that days. So that's back again at our data tab. A different column like it was in the earlier example. Okay, and then give it the criteria we're looking for, less than or equal to 15. Okay, it worked. Yay. All right, the next two are relatively easier. So we're just going to be finding a proportion. So the sample 1 proportion is B8 divided by B6. Sample 2 proportion is B9 divided by B7. And then the sample difference in is equal to B10 minus B11. Okay. All right. So now we need to find the standard error. This is a little more complex one, but if you need to pause the video and look at it, that'd be a good time to do it. Now we'll see if I can enter it without too much issues. We're going to do the square root function. Square root of B10 times parenthesis 1 minus B10 close parenthesis divided by B6 plus B11 times 1 minus B11 divided by B7 in parentheses. So you put parentheses in there because of the orders of operations, and if the multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction, so if you're wanting to have multiplication and if you want to have subtraction and division, subtraction and addition done before multiplication or division, then you need to offset those in parentheses. Okay. All right. So that came out to the correct number. And the multiplier here now, this is the formula that's similar to the one we just did on the CI proportion. So we're going to be using the norm dot s dot inverse. We're going to, again, we're using the absolute references because as we copy them, uh, they would change if we didn't. Okay. So some more parentheses setting off subtraction from the multiplication and division. Okay. That's the correct number again. And now upper lower limit. So upper limit is then going to, the lower limit is going to be B12, subtract B14 times B13. Okay. And then the upper limit then is going to be B12 plus B14 times B13. Okay. That gives us the comparison there between large and medium. So we'll just copy this over now to give us the formulas for medium and small. Okay. Um, so now that you have the data, you need to be able to go back and answer the question of, not the question, but answer what your observations are with this data in comparing the two. Okay. So hopefully these videos are helpful. Again, they're been doing them so that you're able to see what formulas need to be put in there. Good luck with the assignment, and thank you very much.